Hello everybody, welcome back to another video for the day. Now I just want to say thank you everybody who's been supporting me for the Tales of Neckbeard. You guys really seem to like those story time format videos, so I'm gonna retest the waters with an old one, the Nice Guy Stories. So if you'd like to see more of these types of stories in the future, be sure to slam the like button. Alrighty, let's go. Our first story comes to us from username Miss Brightside. Nice Guy led me to my soulmate. Things were rough for me in June this year. I'm 20 years old and had just been dumped by my fiance, who's essentially had proposed to me as a joke and to pay off her bills. My friends had a lot of judgments about the situation, and generally feeling like an idiot, I packed my bags and yoked the frick off to New Zealand to study there for a while. When I first arrived, I was alone and incredibly vulnerable. Someone invited me to an apartment party at which a guy groped me. I felt like I had no one and lashed out at him. To my surprise, the creepy guy's best friend came up out of nowhere, shut down the function, told his friend to frick off, and offered me to come up to their flat for a bit. He and a group of his female friends were going that way as well, so I felt safe and accepted his offer. The group of us sat in their living room, and he let me cry on him for 3 hours, telling him how I was in a dark place and felt like I had nothing and nobody. He said that he would be there for me and invited me into his friend group. From there on, I felt like I had won the lottery. A nice, sweet guy with a really cool group of friends basically just adopted me. Every day for about a month was filled with us going out to town, playing lots of pool, and more apartment parties where the creepy guy stayed far away. Part of our friend group was my main guy's ex-girlfriend. She was absolutely lovely, brilliant girl, a solid 10, and all around a sweetheart. She and I really hit it off, and the fact that he had dated such a great girl and that they were still amicable despite the fact that they had broken up really spoke to his character. He invited me to his birthday party in late July, and I said yes, of course I'd go. A group of about 15 of us went to dinner, and we each finished a bottle of wine. The whole time I talked to the ex-girlfriend, who I'll call Blondie, about politics. She wanted to know all about America, and we had some amazing banter and political debates. We all went back to the guy's flat to play some beer pong and chill after dinner. She and I ended up on the couch together to continue our conversation. While all the guys were doing some stupid stuff, she leaned in and told me that she'd broken up with our guy because she was happy. She said that she was raised Christian and had been afraid to say something, but she had been into me from the first time we met. I said I thought she was cute and kissed her on the forehead. She invited me back to her place for a bit, but before I went, I thought I should check with my guy friend. I called him into the kitchen and asked if he would be upset if I slept with Blondie. I was under the impression that they had broken up rather recently, and it was still a sore spot. I had also had 2 best friends go for my exes before, in one instance the literal day after we had broken up, so I was sensitive to his plight. He started crying and begging me not to. I said fine and didn't. Later, I heard her screaming at him and she stormed out and left. The party died pretty soon after that, and the guy was so upset he asked me to come to his room with him. Knowing we were good friends, I agreed. We laid down on his bed for a bit while he sobbed about Blondie, and having just had my heart ripped out of my chest from the engagement, I told him that I felt his pain. He promised me that he had no romantic intentions having me in his room and just appreciated the company. I kissed his hand and told him it was going to get better. We ended up talking about our lives and cuddling until we fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up and told him I had to go since I needed to start my day and head to the farmer's market. He pulled me in close and said, "No, I think I love you." I was slightly confused since he knew I was happy and obviously was not over Blondie, but I just said goodbye and left anyway. He and I stayed close and didn't make any mention of the fact that I'd slept over at his place after that. He asked me if I wanted to go to a cocktail party with him in October as a friend, and I said yes. That week, I still asked Blondie if she wanted to get a coffee and go around the park with me for a bit before our classes. I was intending to clear up the situation from the weekend before and get to the bottom of her feelings, but we ended up getting sidetracked and just talked about our childhoods and the state of the world for 3 hours. We went to uni afterwards and went our separate ways. Later that evening, I told my main guy that I had gone out with her and it was a nice time. He then told me that she didn't like me as anything but a friend, and she said so afterwards. afterwards. I cried and he asked if I wanted to cuddle again, and I said yes. In the days after that, I started seeing him everywhere. He paid for my laundry, picked me up cookies from the store, took me to the doctor when I had a cough, and more. It was to the point where I admit I had started feeling smothered. I knew he didn't have a lot of money being a student and all, but he was going above and beyond to get me gifts to the point where I was uncomfortable. We had another party at his, and he was a dong to Blondie the whole time. She eventually said fine, she didn't want to be there with him anymore and was going to go to a friend's party instead. She asked if I wanted to go, and I said yes. We left together, and he reportedly threw a fit after we did. At another party, I put my arm around her, and we had a good evening. Then we went out to a picnic table up the hill to smoke and have a chat. Blondie said that she wanted to warn me about her ex because she wasn't sure I had been getting the full picture of his behavior. She told me that they had dated for a month and it was over a year ago. They'd never done anything but kissed, and he ended up being clingy and would follow her everywhere. She ended up being a crutch for him and his depression and alcoholism even after they broke up, and they were really only still friends because every time she tried to walk away, he would threaten to off himself. I was horrified. She and I went to Maka's and talked some more about how he had no respect for her even after they had broken up. At one point a few months ago, he tackled her when he was drunk. I checked my phone during the conversation and saw that I had over 100 Snapchats from him telling me he was angry and sad. I shut it off and told Blondie we should head home. At my flat, I said goodnight to Blondie and apologized for causing her distress. I said I was sorry if I had come off too strong at the party, especially because I had heard that she'd told our friend she wasn't into me like that. She seemed perplexed before a wash of anger came over her. He'd meddled and spread false information. She told me that she did like me and was just afraid of leading me on because she couldn't have another sad boy situation. I promised her there was nothing wrong with taking her time and that I hoped her first experience with a woman would be safer and happier, even if it wasn't with me. She said goodnight, leaned me up against the stairwell of my apartment, and went in for a kiss. The following months I spent still amicable with the nice guy, but pursuing my relationship with Blondie. He would occasionally threaten to off himself if she didn't come over and cuddle with him, but we eventually saw through his bullshit. We hit a breaking point when he snorted codeine and said he was going to end it all. We called 111 for a welfare check. He was furious, not getting the right kind of attention, and wouldn't talk to Blondie anymore. I was a godsend. She and I ended up officially dating, and it's been amazing so far. The relationship is good, the chats are fantastic, and she gives me a lot to think about. I spent the whole last month covered in hickeys posting pictures for her, writing love letters, holding hands, the whole obnoxious honeymoon phase shebang. We have our own lives, and I hike and travel solo a lot, so she has her space and I have mine. Things couldn't have been going better until Nice Guy decided to intervene. All of us went up to a friend's birthday party where Blondie couldn't make it. I hung out with other friends and we all went up to the park after midnight to do some drinking. At a certain point in the night, I had had a whole bottle of wine and was running around and rolling in the grass telling everyone how much I love Blondie and that I was going to move to New Zealand so I could be with her forever. At the end of the night, I was so drunk I couldn't walk and had to pee. Nice Guy walked me to his flat and got me some water. I fell over in the bathroom and he heard me and asked if I was okay. I was fine but couldn't stand. I had to sit on his couch to sober up. He put his arms around me and I started telling him how much I love Blondie. He decided to tell Blondie's friends that I had cuddled and make it seem as if I had cheated on her with him. Blondie called me over and was furious, less so at me because she knew he was lying, but also was upset that I hadn't entirely cut him off yet. We were still going to the cocktail party that he had invited me to in July. She warned me that he was going to try to take advantage of me because he had done the same thing to her right before I'd come to New Zealand. Horrified, I cut him off, blocked him on everything, and sold my ticket on Facebook. He ended up apologizing and wiring me $50 for it. At the end of the night, I told Blondie I had been telling everyone that I loved her, and he was probably attempting to drive a wedge into the situation. She paused for 10 seconds and told me that she loved me too. She and I are going out to a nice separate cocktail party at a 5-star hotel this Friday. I can't wait to spoil her and make amends for cutting him off a day late and $1 short. short. Nice guy is threatening to show up. I wish he would. Yeah, you know what? He might as well just get stopped at the door. You can't enter a 5-star restaurant or a 5-star location with a 1-star personality. Hope you guys are still together, and I wish the best for you. Our next story comes to us from username Throwaway Ether. Nerdy nice guy quickly spirals into a terrifying jealousy when woman he's into shows interest in someone else. Before we start, this story begins a month or so ago. The more extreme parts of this story took place rather recently, and this story still has room for new developments in the future. So if there's ever more to this story, I will be sure to make another post and link it to this one. The key players in this story: G, the man himself, the titular nice guy; C, the poor woman that this guy just won't leave alone, also the girl I'm totally into; R, their friends; and then of course there's me. In my part where anybody else refers to me, will just call me E. Some background: I'm a transgender woman. I've been about for 2 years. I also happen to be pan. It was at a convention that I frequent every year it's held. I was going with some friends of mine, as I always do. Day 1, Friday, was just a normal day until the night. See, there was a shuttle going between the hotel and the convention. I was under the impression that there was going to be a rave that night, as per the usual at the con. Sadly, this time there wasn't. Still, something prompted me to get on that bus. I just didn't know what. To this day, I still don't exactly know why I did it, but even with the shotstorm that was about to ensue, I couldn't be happier that I did. Once I stepped onto the bus, somebody asked me if they could take a picture of me. I was cosplaying as Marnie from Pokemon when we arrived at the con, this person being C. I thought she was pretty cute, and I loved it when people stopped me for pictures, so I happily obliged. One important detail I noticed about her was a button on her shirt which read something to the effect of "happy as frick, she's a thespian." When we got off the bus and arrived at the con, she introduced me to her friends G and R. G didn't give off any of the typical nice guy tropes to begin with. He seemed genuinely kind, or so I thought. G hung around the two of us pretty much the whole time, while R went off to do her own thing. I instantly noticed that G would pay for anything C wanted. We were at a swap meet, so I guess that was nice of him. He didn't mention how nice he was once, and casually brought up how much he had spent on C, but I didn't put too much stock into it since I had learned that the two had been friends pretty much since forever. The first bombshell anybody dropped during this whole ordeal was when C said, kind of unprompted, "Everyone here has a crush on me." I blushed a bit and stepped back a bit embarrassed. I had just met this woman, but I couldn't deny that I thought that she was pretty cute and kind. At the time, I didn't really give too much thought to the idea that G and R also liked C, but looking back, it should have been a red flag. After the three of us hung out for some time, C asked me to add them all on Facebook and even invited me to hang out with them in their hotel room. The night which ensued was fun, but there wasn't a lot to tell as far as important events in the story. However, I did find out that G paid for C and R's con tickets, which is going to come up again as well. G also kept mentioning how nice he was and how he was a pacifist, which I guess was a little bit of a red flag, but I didn't put much stock into that one either. So then Saturday begins. After leaving the hotel room, I honestly spent little time with the rest of the group as I tried to reconnect with the friends I came with, but later on in the evening, I met up with C and R again, and G quickly caught up with us. After hitting up the rave, we all went back to the hotel room. G then told us that the hotel scammed him out of his money as his account was overdrawn, and that he, C, and R would pack up their stuff and go home before Sunday. They all looked dismayed about the news, but I really wanted to spend more time with them, and honestly with C. So I helped pay off G's overdraft fees, and they stayed another night. This detail also becomes important. So then Sunday hits. It's another fairly uneventful day, but then the night hits and I'm in their hotel again. C and I are talking more, and I'm really starting to feel like maybe I should spend more time with this woman. But then G decides they should leave that night just in case his account gets overdrawn again, so he calls a lift and I help them all pack, saying my goodbyes and hoping to see C again. G is nice enough to walk me to my hotel room, and I confide to him that I like C, but he then tells me to stay friends with her and not to pursue a relationship, which I understand we met not too long ago, or at least I thought I understood when he first told me this. So the next day hit and C and I instantly begin texting non-stop. I hadn't been this invested in a conversation in a long time. I don't want to go on too long here, but basically we could not stop texting each other. This wouldn't have been noteworthy to the story story if G hadn't spent the night at her house. The two of them are close friends, so it didn't strike me as weird at all. But he kept messaging me about how he felt ignored by her because she was lost in conversation with me, and honestly, I was ready to just shove him to the side too. It was all about C on my end. So this goes on for a while, and every time he knows that C and I are texting in private, he goes on these rants about how he feels lonely, how he doesn't have anyone to talk to anymore, how he feels I stole C from him. Stole? Dude, she was never yours. One of these days, C tells me all about what G is actually like and her overall complaints about the dude. He's gross, he's unhygienic, he's obsessed with her, and he spends all of his money on lavish gifts for her in hopes that it will win her over. Oh, and then he goes and reminds her of all the things he does for her whenever he wants something from her, and apparently he gets jealous every time she takes an interest in somebody. Some time passes, and C and I make plans to hang out at my place. Of course, G doesn't take the news very well. While in voice chat, this dude blows up and tells us that if she is going to my house, then he's going too. And he won't take no for an answer, he's already decided. When C and I calmly explain that we want some alone time together, he gets angry again and doesn't listen to either of us. Even R is trying to tell him that we're gonna want time just between the two of us, but he doesn't get it. That's when he tells me that he's going to burn my trailer down. Thing is, I have been in a house fire before. I lost my house to one when I was 10 years old, and he knew this about me. I was seriously upset by this comment, and he never apologized for it. On another day, C and I were discussing watching Dragon Maid together because she loves dragons and I'd been wanting to watch it with her. This is an anime that G is a big fan of, and upon hearing C was planning to watch it with me, he blew up. He spent a good half hour pleading with C to watch Dragon Maid with him, but of course C kept turning him down because she already said she'd watch it with me and would rather do that anyway. All the while, my friend in the other room kept making jokes about how he sounded like one of those nice guys, which is what inspired me to write this. Eventually, he told her to literally break my promise to me as I was there, trying to tell her that she constantly broke her promises in the past. Of course, she didn't back down, and he did at some point stop, but he was clearly really upset about it, saying that he didn't know he had a chance to ask her, even though I heard her say many times that she hadn't watched it directly in his vicinity. This all reaches a peak, however, when the three of us are in a call. We talked about our plans to hang out at my place, and G is doing his usual spiel about saying that he wants to be involved in our activities, even though some of them, well, aren't likely to be safe for work. When I try to explain this again, he just tells me, if you make me regret this, I'm going to punch you. I didn't realize exactly what he was implying at first, but this was enough to set C off. She didn't go off on him in the call, but this seriously pissed her off, and then me too when it said in exactly what he was saying. I told her mom about it, and G was forbidden to come over or contact C or myself again. He had been off his medication for weeks and hadn't seen a therapist in who knows how long. He'd only do those things when C reminded him, so I'm beginning to think that he only cared when he thought it would make C like him more. A few days later, I found out something else he did. He was hanging out with another friend of C's, and during their outing, he calls me a transgender wholesome. Thing is, the woman he was hanging out with also happened to be another trans woman, a detail he was aware of, by the way. The only reason she didn't say anything was because he was her ride home. This seriously pissed me off too, all because a girl he liked was talking to me? Thankfully, this story has a happy ending. After that ordeal, C's mom and my own discussed him and the danger he posed to us. She told us about how he'd been totally obsessed with her for years and how she knew somebody just like G who murdered his girlfriend. She saw the same patterns in G and wanted to keep C and I both safe. My mom understood, wanting to keep us both safe too. I also found out that the reason G lost all of his money to the hotel was because he was peeping through the keyholes of other hotel guests. What the frick? And I just thought the dude got legitimately scammed. And since then, C and I haven't heard from him at all. We're both still super happy just talking with each other, and she still plans to visit me at my house. She's one of my favorite people in the world, and I couldn't be happier that G, the nice guy, couldn't drive a wedge between us. Maybe after his therapy, he'll change his ways and apologize, but in the meantime, he is far from us and can't do anything to sabotage our relationship. And with that, that is going to have to be it with the videos. If you would like to see more of these nice guy stories, I need for you guys to be absolutely amazing and slam the like button, do everything you can, leave a comment down below, and if you have not already, subscribe to the channel. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.